Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the English Daily Book Summary YouTube channel. In order to not stop learning, listen to an English book summary every day for free.
Joel Schwartzberg, get to the point. Sharpen your message and make your words matter. Have you ever poured your energy into sharing an idea, only to see your audience slip into confusion or disinterest? The issue often isn't your concept, but how it's conveyed. Our world is brimming with competing messages, so if you lose your listeners' focus for even a moment, your point might vanish among the noise. Whether you're presenting a cutting-edge proposal at work, speaking to a community group, or simply trying to capture a friend's imagination, knowing how to communicate effectively can reshape how others perceive you and how they respond to your ideas. When done right, your words can inspire action, ignite curiosity, and leave a memorable impact long after you've left the stage or closed your laptop. In this blink, you'll learn how to uncover the essential purpose behind your words, transform that purpose into a persuasive message, enhance its power so it truly lands, and wrap it up with a closing flourish that ensures everyone remembers what you stand for. You'll also discover how to adapt your approach to fit any audience, whether you're leading a team meeting or pitching a personal passion project. As you integrate these ideas, you'll see how easily a clear, compelling message can stand out from the sea of muddled voices. By weaving these techniques into your everyday interactions, you'll watch your words gain the clarity and conviction they deserve. Start with the point. Ever sat through a presentation that wandered through anecdotes and side comments without ever circling back to the key idea? You probably felt lost because the speaker never identified a clear point. Starting with a strong, defendable statement can transform scattered thoughts into a focused, compelling message, making it far more likely that listeners will remember what you've said. A point isn't just a catchy slogan or a simple topic, it's a claim that can be argued, upheld, and explained. One practical way to test your point's validity is to add it to the end of the phrase, "I believe that." If it doesn't form a logical sentence or can't be defended, it needs more work. You can further challenge your point by asking, "So what?" to eliminate obvious or superficial ideas that nobody would dispute. Then use a series of why questions to sharpen your point and trim any hollow adjectives that only fill space. These 3 checks will help guarantee that your point carries genuine weight. Some people think having a point means clinging to a specific arrangement of words and memorizing it exactly. But this approach can lead to panic if you forget even a syllable. The real goal is to preserve the essence of your argument rather than recite a rigid script. Embracing a bit of improvisation keeps your communication natural, flexible, and open to new insights that might arise mid-speech. If the guiding principle, your chief claim, remains intact, you're in good shape. By cutting through the fluff and positioning your point front and center, you define your focus and make it easier for others to engage with what you're saying. Whether you're speaking to a room of colleagues or simply chatting with a friend, distilling your message into one powerful statement can make all the difference in how it lands. Carrying a well-defined point from the start allows every example, anecdote, or statistic to serve a purpose, adding to your argument instead of detracting from it. People are far more likely to remember a solid assertion than a collection of vague comments. When you take the time to craft a clear claim and support it with well-chosen evidence, your audience will feel guided by your words, rather than left to make sense of them for themselves. And that sense of direction can turn even a single sentence into a resonant experience. Sell the point. Most ideas deserve more than a quick mention. They must be actively sold to truly land with people. Pinpointing your central argument is the crucial first step, but the real challenge is making sure your audience carries that argument with them long after you conclude. If nobody can repeat your main claim in their own words, even the most polished delivery or charming personality won't rescue your message. Ultimately, the best yardstick for success is whether your key point travels from your mind into somebody else's and stays there. An easy way to check if that transfer has happened is to simply ask a colleague or audience member, "Did you get my point?" If the response is unclear, or if that individual can't articulate it back to you, chances are you've offered information without firmly positing an argument. In most cases, a presentation that amuses or impresses is still unsuccessful if the audience leaves thinking, "What was that about again?" Focusing on a single, clearly defined statement means everything else, body language, humor, depth of research, serves one goal: embedding your point where it needs to be. One of the easiest ways to help your audience get it is by prioritizing your first 30 seconds. Those first few moments set the tone for the moments to follow, which means that beginning with the notorious "so" or "well" or similar filler can kill your momentum before you've even had a chance to build it. Instead, consciously pick your opening words and stick to them. If required, introduce who you are, then quickly get to stating your claim and highlighting its relevance. Securing your audience's engagement in that short window is mission critical. From there, you want to keep selling your point. A bare-bones list of facts and figures can sound like a grade school book report, which rarely energizes listeners to embrace your perspective. Sellers go a step further by constantly signaling why a point matters. In other words, keep the focus on why your audience should care, illustrating the potential payoff behind the idea. That way, rather than leaving the material open for polite observation, you invite others to consider, adopt, or at least thoughtfully weigh your proposition. Most communicators lose ground by outlining details about weaving them into a single compelling argument. Conversely, when each story or statistic circles back to your central claim, you're no longer just sharing data. You're demonstrating that this data is valuable. People remember messages that call them to think, act, or change. Actively selling your point is what transforms a scattered exchange of information into a memorable, persuasive experience that resonates far beyond your final words. Strengthen the point. You wouldn't prepare a special meal without considering your guests' tastes. The same principle applies when sharing important ideas. Different audiences have different expectations. Some crave fresh information, while others seek inspiration, empathy, or detailed explanations. Before you speak, it helps to identify what your particular audience wants or needs from you. Is it a deeper understanding of a topic, a sense of reassurance in uncertain times, or practical strategies that they can use immediately? When you align your message with those desires, you stack your odds of success rather than leaving the outcome entirely to chance. But strengthening a message goes well beyond figuring out what to say. It also involves how you say it. One common slip-up is using an upward inflection, sometimes known as uptalk. This habit can make even the most knowledgeable speaker sound unsure at best and unprofessional at worst. Shifting from an upward tilt at the end of a sentence to a strong, conclusive tone helps reinforce confidence. Not every line needs a power period, but it can be an invaluable tool when emphasizing the crucial statements you want your audience to remember. Physical closeness, or its digital equivalent, further enhances engagement. In person, try to remove barriers such as podiums, tables, or presentation tools that distance you from your listeners. A sense of proximity can foster connection and signal that you're genuinely there for them. In virtual settings, looking directly into the camera instead of at your screen creates an illusion of eye contact, helping people feel seen and acknowledged, even from miles away. Your volume might seem trivial, but many speakers underestimate how impactful a clear voice can be. Speaking loudly enough ensures everyone can hear you without straining, but it also counters various pitfalls like mumbling or racing through your delivery. If you're worried you'll overdo it, you can set your mind at ease. Very few people speak too forcefully. On the other hand, a well-projected voice makes your key points land with the weight they deserve. Pausing is another tool that can transform a so-so talk into a compelling one. Despite the fear that silence might seem like you've lost your train of thought, a brief pause gives listeners valuable time to digest each idea. It also replaces filler words like and making your speech flow more naturally. Pausing before delivering your main argument can also build suspense, prompting everyone to pay closer attention. Ultimately, ideas have immense power, but that power remains dormant unless you wield it with clear intent. By tailoring your core message to your specific audience's wants and maintaining an engaged presence, you increase the chances that your ideas will resonate. When people walk away not only hearing your message but truly understanding its relevance to them, you've elevated your communication from ordinary to something extra. End with the point. Can you recall a conversation or presentation that seemed captivating in the moment but turned into a vague blur almost immediately after walking away? Quite a few, right? This is why starting with, returning to, and then ending on your chief claim is so critical. You don't want to be just another hazy communicator. You want to be remembered as a signal amid the static. Yet, having a sharp point isn't just a gift to your audience, it's a gift to you too. A precise argument can work like a compass, getting you back on track whenever you notice the conversation drifting, or when you're actively provoked to engage in a side debate. If someone attempts to bait you with a controversial remark, politely acknowledge them and their distraction with a phrase like, "I understand where you're coming from," before pivoting right back to the claim you want to convey. Remember that the more time you spend defending yourself or responding to others, the less time you spend making your case. Ultimately, the audience came to hear your perspective, not a detour into someone else's agenda. Similarly, keep in mind that there's no set limit to how many times you're allowed to repeat your point. Doing so can be highly effective if you sense the audience's attention slipping. A simple, "Here's what really matters," can instantly snap everyone back to attention. Assuming you've stayed on target, all that's left is to leave with a strong final impression. You can probably recall communicators who wrapped up with something along the lines of, "That's all I've got," which inadvertently drained the power from anything they'd just said. It's far more effective to restate your main claim, yes, again, and close the conversation or presentation confidently and decisively. Think of it like a gymnast's landing. You're aiming to stick it firmly with no shaky extra steps. Another classic pitfall that can undermine a firm finish is failing to recognize you've already delivered the goods and continuing to talk in circles. The solution here is to be aware of the moment you've successfully conveyed your message and, when it arrives, to step away gracefully. Of course, all these tactics hinge on having a genuine, well-formed point in the first place. If you're missing that clear, compelling central argument, you can't highlight it throughout your talk, and you certainly can't land on it at the end. Because without a point, every sentence you deliver is, quite literally, pointless. In this link to Get to the Point by Joel Schwartzberg, you've learned that clarity separates hollow chatter from memorable conversation. The foundation of every meaningful exchange is a focused, defendable statement. This statement is your guiding compass that keeps you from drifting into needless tangents and ensures that every fact, story, or statistic reinforces your central claim. When your main argument is rock solid, your confidence soars and listeners lean in rather than tune out. Adopting this approach will elevate your message from scattershot to laser-focused, whether you're addressing a packed auditorium or chatting over coffee, and remind you just how powerful clear communication can be. Well, that's it for this Blink. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you can, please take the time to leave us a rating, as we always appreciate your feedback. Hope to see you soon.